Okay, hello everyone, DSP here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth video game review series where I give you maximum truth and minimum bullshit regarding the latest video game releases. And today we've got a big one. Today not only do we have a game that is the conclusion to a series of games, a trilogy of games that some people would say a trilogy and some would say it's been 4 games, it's up for debate. But a series of games of which I've played every single one in this series. This is a series of games that I've enjoyed over the years, ever since I started back doing full game playthroughs in 2009 on YouTube, and that I am very happy to finally be completing the circle, so to speak. This is also a game that's been very controversial because the weekend before the game was released to the masses, one particular mainstream media outlet reviewed the game and gave it a particularly low score compared to what everyone expected the game to get and what other outlets were giving it, causing massive controversy across the internet about scoring systems and all of that. We're not going to get into that in this video because I already made a whole video about that on my DSP Gaming channel about 3 weeks ago, right before when it was happening. And so if you want to hear about my thoughts about reviews and stuff like that, you can go check out that video. This video is to review Batman Arkham Knight on the PlayStation 4, okay? Now I want you to understand something. I have a unique perspective on this game, being that I've played all the previous incarnations of the game, being that I am a big fan of the Batman franchise, the Batman character, the Batman lore. I used to read Batman comic books when I was younger, and the fact that I really was looking forward to this as being the closing of the loop, per se. This is the final game in the Arkham series. There will be no further Arkham games, according to WB Games. This is it, and if Rocksteady does go on to do something else, they'll be doing something different outside of Batman. So that being said, you have really high hopes for the game, okay? And I really feel that this game succeeds on many levels and also kind of does not on some levels, and I want to talk about that in my review today. But I want you to understand something. This review will be scaled in line with the other games. And what I mean by that is, when I do a game review, right, the thing that really sets me apart, I feel, from other people who do game reviews, is that I'm going to give you all the points, the positives, the negatives, things for what I think the fans of the series will like, people who maybe aren't fans of the series and just play the game as their first Arkham outing, what they'll like, etc., etc. And I try to give you all these exclusive points and my own reactions to things that happen in the game. But ultimately, I give you a score, and that score is in line with everything else that I've played recently and also the other games in the series. So when I give this game a number score at the end of the review, it's going to be scaled in line with the other games in the Arkham series. I don't just pull a number score out of my ass and say, oh, it's a 7 or a 9 or a 3 because I just feel like saying that. It's going to be justified based off of the things I say in the video and also based off of the scores I gave the other Arkham games. So we're going to address that at the end of the video, okay? Alright, now let's get to the meat of it. Batman Arkham Knight takes place after the events of Batman Arkham City. The Joker has passed away, and Batman is now basically scrambling to control Gotham City, which has been taken over by the supervillains. If you remember the plot of Arkham City, well, that was supposed to be kind of Arkham Asylum spread throughout a city and having all the supervillains confined to this portion of the city, and each of them having their own district, so to speak, but it didn't work. It didn't work at all, and Batman was unsuccessful at containing all of these villains, and now they've spread throughout all of Gotham, okay? It is the biggest map of any Batman Arkham game so far, and by far the graphics are mind-blowingly good. Let me tell you, when I first started playing the game, I was like, for an open world game, look at the detail of these graphics. And I will say this, I've played 3 games this year, all of which the graphics blew me away. The Order 1886, The Witcher 3, and Batman Arkham Knight. Comparing the 3, The Order had the best graphics, but that's because the game was an on-rails game. It wasn't an open world game. It was very, very short, so they really had time to work on the graphics. I would say Batman and Witcher 3 in their own respective genres, one being a fantasy RPG and one being an open world action game, both respectfully have the best graphics of those genres. So if you're looking for the best looking action open world roaming game, this is it. Right now, this is the epitome of what you can get. It looks gorgeous, whether it's the atmospheric effects, the detail of the characters, just looking from the rooftops down at the city, the insane amount of detail, the fact you almost never ever see pop-in or anything like that in this game. It blows your mind, and there's almost no loading times. The loading times are almost non-existent unless you're going between a major scene or a major dungeon that's indoors or something. When you're roaming through the city, you never get any loading. It's crazy good, okay? Now, just to let you know, minor plot spoilers. So if you don't want any plot spoilers whatsoever, I don't even know why you're watching a review. The Scarecrow is the main villain in this game, okay? And he is the one who's overall taken over Arkham, well, they call it not really Arkham City, it's Gotham City. But there's a sidekick of his, or is it? You're really not sure. This enigmatic character called the Arkham Knight, who makes himself known. He's wearing this weird suit of high-tech armor that kind of looks like a Batman suit, but he seems hard set on really killing Batman throughout the course of the game. And of course, that's one of the major focuses of the game, is not only thwarting the Scarecrow's plot, but also thwarting the Arkham Knight as he's trying to stop Batman, kill Batman, and do things involving Batman. All the supporting characters, including Commissioner Gordon and Oracle and everyone, kind of make an appearance in this game. And in addition, there is not only the main plot line, but there's tons and tons of side content in the game. We'll get to that in a moment, because in order for me to explain the side content to you, I need to explain to you the major change in Batman Arkham Knight, the Batmobile. And yes, this was a huge rumor during Batman Arkham City. It was even alluded to during Batman Arkham City that the Batmobile would be the addition to this game. It is. And for some people, that would be a great thing, and other people are going to be like, that's not such a great thing. Allow me to explain why. The Batmobile kind of looks like the Tumbler from the Batman trilogy from Christopher Nolan, but it's not really. It's a transformative thing. It could be a car, but then when you hold down a trigger, it turns into almost the tank, like the Tumbler from those movies. So really, there's two modes of gameplay. There's high-speed racing, but there's also this tank battle combat, which really changes the game. There hasn't been anything like this whatsoever in any of the Arkham series before, and you might say, oh, that's nice. There'll be a few side missions or mini-games or something with this tank battle. No. In fact, the tank combat, tank puzzle solving is a main focus of the game. In fact, I'd say it's about 50% of the game. No lie, no exaggeration. Half the game, you're in the Batmobile, you're either going from point A to point B, you're apprehending people, you're fighting supervillains, you're doing crazy tank battles against crazy amounts of Scarecrow or Arkham Knight-controlled automated drones, which is the excuse they have for you being able to use tank combat like bullets and explosions because you're attacking drones, not humans, and we know Batman doesn't kill in the traditional Batman lore. So just me saying that, you might be like, what? Like, how? What? I don't understand. I thought these Batman games were about Batman going around the city, hand-to-hand combat, using his gadgets. That's still in there, don't get me wrong. But the game heavily focuses on this Batmobile, almost to the point where it seems like someone at Rocksteady or WB Games might have gotten involved and said, no, the series is too similar. We need something definitively way different in this game to set it apart from the others. But I think this is going to be a divisive thing. If you liked the other Batman Arkham games, and you absolutely hate driving, if you just liked the driving in other games, you don't like driving games, you don't like this kind of vehicle combat, you might hate Arkham Knight. Like, legitimately, you might have liked every other game in the franchise. You play this, you're like, I fucking hate this game. What were they thinking? But if you have a more open mind, if you don't mind driving, if you don't mind more open-minded, puzzle-minded, and I'll be honest, some really monotonous tank combat, you're probably really going to like Arkham Knight. And I think that's what's going to divide people down the middle. Whether or not you like vehicle and tank style combat or not will decide whether or not you like Arkham Knight and overall affect your vision of what you think the game is, okay? So, the game is open world. There's 3 islands. You can get to any island at any time using Batman's old school abilities, meaning the grappling hook and hovering and stuff like that. But the Batmobile is limited to only one island at a time until you progress the story, at which time certain bridges will go down and you can get the Batmobile to the other islands, okay? Now, the Batmobile itself not only is for combat and transportation, but it also solves puzzles. It has a winch that can latch on and rip things out of walls. It can electrify certain items, and it allows you to solve different puzzles, either to get from point A to point B, to get to hidden rooms and maybe unlockable collectibles, so on and so forth. So the Batmobile itself is varied, and it's pretty cool once you open up everything to choose, gee, do I want to drive on the ground in the Batmobile and fly around like it's a racer game, or do I want to, do the aerial kind of transportation that Batman is known for in this Arkham series? Important to note, the Batmobile has positives and negatives. Its positives are, it's nearly indestructible. You can really drive like haphazardly. Even if you're terrible at driving games, you can drive around Gotham City in the Batmobile, slamming against shit, willy-nilly, and you won't really damage the car at all. It's almost invincible. But, that being said, you might not like the driving at all. You might not want to do the driving, and that would piss you off. The controls are kind of slippery, And what I mean by that is it almost feels like you're driving at some points on ice or you're driving on like an oiled down road. And I think they were going for this on purpose. They didn't want it to feel too perfect, because if it did, then maybe it would kind of feel a la, say, the physics engine of Grand Theft Auto 4, which a lot of people had issues with. So they probably didn't want to go for that. They wanted it to be more cartoony, more unrealistic, so that it would be an easier drive. But at the same time, there's a lot of times in the game, especially when you're starting to play and you're just getting used to the Batmobile for the first time, you'll miss a turn, you'll be slamming into shit all over the place. And not to say that I'm the best driver, but I definitely had some kind of an adjustment period until I got better with the Batmobile to adjust to it, okay? So, you've got a main storyline that focuses on the Scarecrow and on this Arkham Knight character. And it basically lasts, if you're just playing the main story, probably anywhere from 8 to 10 hours. Maybe I would say 12 hours if you're really taking your time or you're having some issues with that traditional Batman style of gameplay where you're solving puzzles, you're platforming, you're fighting groups of enemies with your free-flowing combat, which, by the way, not only returns in this game, but it's in full force in this game. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the side content. But yes, the traditional Batman stuff that you know from the previous Batman Arkham games is all here, including looking for hidden items, solving riddles, the free-flowing combat, the stealth combat where you use your detective sense to take out all these enemies. It's all present in this game, okay? Ultimately, what they tried to do is take the best of everything and cram it into one game, and I think in some levels they succeeded and in some they didn't because of so much of a focus on the Batmobile, okay? Now, in addition to the main story, you've got Riddler content. Riddler's always been the main side content of these Arkham games, and once again, he is very predominant. There are 243 hidden Riddler items in the game, whether it's solving a riddle by scanning it with your detective sense, whether it's finding little Riddler trophies and solving puzzles to open up Riddler trophies, whether it's new destructible items that are hidden throughout the city that you use the Batmobile to shoot. So there you go, and I'm talking about these new puzzles with the Batmobile. That's one of the kinds that you'll come up against. There's all this Riddler content in the game that is completely optional, but you get the best ending of the game if you complete it all. In addition, the Riddler actually has his own side mission quest for the first time. Instead of just being collectibles, he actually has a side mission where he kidnaps a critical character in the Batman series, and you're trying to free this character from the Riddler's grasp by doing Batmobile challenges. Yes, all Batmobile-related challenges in order to free this character, and then you do some co-op fighting challenges, and you can finally free the character, and that's a cool part of the game. In addition to just the Riddler, there's returning characters. I don't want to spoil too much, but just think the classic characters who've kind of been in all the games. You know, I won't spoil too much, but let's face it, I think everyone realized characters like Two-Face and the Penguin, you know, these guys are going to come back in different capacities, all right? In addition to all of that, there will also be some cool cameo appearances from characters such as Nightwing and Robin. You know, all the characters that you would expect to be in the game come in at different capacities and different missions. So, overall, if you choose to do all of the content of Batman Arkham Knight, you're talking a whopping 20 to 30 hours minimum of gameplay, because just between the challenges, the collectibles, the overwhelming amount of side content that opens up during this radial dial that you have to go around the map during these missions, there's so much going on. I can tell you this, even though the game has so much side content, a lot of these games, right, in open world atmosphere, you get sidetracked. I remember playing games like Infamous or Saints Row, and you just get sidetracked doing the side content, but then you realize it's kind of boring. It's all kind of the same. Not really so in Batman Arkham Knight. There's so much variety. There are missions where you have to take out outposts of generic enemies, but they all have unique abilities. Some of them might have electric batons that you can only take them out once you stun them with a stun gun. Some of them might be the big brutes that you have to stun with your cape before you can rapidly punch them. And you have to go free-flowing between the combat between these guys in order to take them all down in one shot, and it could be very challenging and daunting. You've got missions where you're going to be looking for banks that are being held up, and you got to stop bank robbers. There's going to be missions where there's crazy preachers, and a character from a previous Batman Arkham game shows up, and you have to do some training with this character. It's really varied, the side content, and I can tell you this, I never really got bored doing it. The only complaint I have is there are a few missions where it's hard to find them, meaning some missions you always have a direction on your map. It tells you on the map where to go, and other times you just have to find them in this open world, and that can be a little frustrating if you're just trying to get some side content done and you really can't find the mission, you're not sure where it is. That could be a little frustrating. Doing all the side content ultimately allows you to upgrade your character and upgrade the Batmobile. Batman, again, can upgrade his damage output, his defense, different combat abilities and takedowns that he can do during combat. The Batmobile can have its weapon capacity upgraded, armor upgraded, speed upgraded. You can launch yourself out of the Batmobile with an ejector seat and then glide across the city. There's challenge races where you can implement these kind of things. So it's really awesome, and it's really well thought out. Production values are high. Lots of good stuff. Oh, I haven't spoiled a major plot point. There's one major plot point that a lot of people are going to have issue with, okay? And so I'm only going to talk about it for about 20 seconds. I'm going to put up my hands like this in a moment, and when I do, I'm going to start talking. When I'm done, I'm going to put up my hands like this again. So, spoiler free. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. The spoiler is that the Joker is in the game. The Joker is not dead, but the Joker is actually in the mind of Batman because Batman was infected with the Joker's blood. He's in the whole freaking game. He keeps showing up and talking. And once again, the game's primarily kind of about him, but not really. And it is a little annoying because for those of us who said, yes, he finally died in Arkham City, we can have a game that's not about him. And then we played Arkham Origins, and Arkham Origins, it was all about him. Well, he's back again. At least he's not an alive character in this game, but yes, he appears in this game a shitload. It can be annoying, and yeah, that factors into my review because there's tons of Batman villains they could be using, and they always go back to the fucking Joker, and I think that is kind of a cop-out. Okay, end of spoiler. Hands up again. So, if you missed that portion, that's all I'm going to talk about. I will not talk about it again, so you missed the spoiler. Okay. So now let's talk about what I like about Batman Arkham Knight, what I don't like, and then ultimately what I think about the game and my score for it, okay? What I like about Batman Arkham Knight, the variety of content, the amazing graphical capabilities of the game, the open world, the fact that it treats the characters seriously. I like that obviously the people who worked on the game are fans of the Batman lore. Yet again, they've made a game that is kind of real true to the Batman lore. And you're going to have a really epic experience playing this game, especially if you're a fan of Batman and you know who all these characters are and you see how they're implemented in the game. I really like the fact there's so much content, there's so much variety, the graphics are amazing, they blow you away. I like the fact that they didn't do away with things that you like. So if you liked the combat of the previous Batman games, it's back in full force with some improvements and some things. You're going to love it. If you liked the riddle hunting of the past Batman games, you're going to love it. You know what I mean? They didn't do away with anything. And so they kind of knew, let's keep the stuff that worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So they kept all the stuff that worked. And I really like that. I like the little Easter eggs that you have here and there in the game, too, where you get a riddle that has to do with some character that may not even be in the game, but they're referenced at some point in the game. I like that kind of stuff. The voice acting, top-notch. You've got an all-star voice acting cast. Of course, yes, Troy Baker voices 72 characters in the game, but you've also got the return of Kevin Conroy as Batman. You've got the return of all the people, basically, who did voice acting from a lot of the previous games, plus some newcomers. In fact, the voice of Gordon, Jim Gordon, the commissioner, is actually the voice of Mike from Breaking Bad. So that was a good one. And I really like the voice acting in the game as well. So overall, the returning great gameplay, the fact that the makers of the game are great fans of the Batman lore, the amount of Easter eggs, great level of production, and the graphics and everything, awesome. Okay, and of course the amount of gameplay, outstanding. The things I don't like about the game, I'll be honest. Number one, the Batmobile is far overused. The Batmobile ends up being a major focus of the game, literally half of the game. And I'm sorry, this is not Batmobile Arkham Knight. This is Batman Arkham Knight. And it's bullshit that people are forced to use the Batmobile so much. For me, I adjusted to it, and by the end of the game, even the hardest tank battles with this Batmobile I adjusted to and I conquered. But I could see people who don't like this kind of game would be like, I don't like driving, I don't like tanks, why the fuck am I doing this in a Batman game? You might be incredibly frustrated. You waited an entire franchise, right, for this. You play the game, you're like, why is it all fucking tanks? This is bullshit. And I completely empathize with you. I understand it's bullshit. I think that they should not. I think that the Batmobile should have been implemented, but it should have been shoved down your throat to the degree that it is in this game. It's like they really wanted to say, look what we did with the Batmobile, instead of, oh, here's a great Batman game and we implemented the Batmobile in it. It's like, here's Batmobile, Batmobile, Batmobile. Look at us because we're proud because it's the Batmobile. And I think they kind of failed in that regard. Number two, boss battles. They don't exist. And that might be a spoiler for some people. I'll just tell you, if you're playing this game, don't expect some awesome final showdown with the supervillain you've been tracking for the past 5 hours. Don't expect some really cool, epic thing. If you remember in Batman Arkham Asylum, I did have some issues with the boss battles, but at least the boss battles existed, right? There was a final showdown with the Joker. There was a showdown with Poison Ivy and Killer Croc and all these characters. That doesn't happen in this game. In this game, a lot of the times you're chasing a villain. Once you complete the side content, that's it. The villain's caught. And you're like, wow. So it was that easy to just catch this person. It's very anticlimactic in a lot of cases, especially if the final battle with someone, right? An epic Batman villain, you're going to get a showdown. No, it's just a generic tank battle. And you're like, oh, man, they had so many good things they could have done with this. In fact, some of these characters showed up in previous games and had good boss battles, and in this game it was terrible bad. And you're like, what the hell were they possibly thinking here? It's just a joke. I'll be honest, there's one gripe that I've always had with the Batman series, and most people disagree with me, but I'll bring it up again. The combat, when it comes to the hand-to-hand combat, still, it's the fourth game, or I guess the third game by Rocksteady, the fourth game in the series. Batman still has issues hit detecting characters. And what I mean by that is he'll be surrounded by like 10 guys, right? And there'll be 2 guys with guns and 8 guys that are all hand-to-hand. So you'll start a combo, building up a combo on the hand-to-hand guys. All of a sudden, someone will go to hit you, right? Maybe you miss your counter, so you get hit from behind. Oh, shit. Then you go to hit the guy with the gun who's standing an inch in front of you, and here's Batman. I can't hit him. It's like he has T-Rex arms. I can't get him. I can't get him. And he's standing right the fuck in front of you, and you can't hit him. And I hate that about the Arkham games. They still didn't make it so that Batman can just go, and lunge forward and punch to hit a guy there, unless he's in the middle of a huge multi-hit combo. And it's unrealistic, because Batman would fucking, if a guy's about to shoot him, would say, and punch the guy right there. It's lame, because they're basically nerfing the Batman to make the combat a little bit more difficult. They still didn't fix that, and I still am disappointed with that. Another major gripe with the game. One of the major plot twists, one of the major plot points that are harped on over and over during the course of the game is insanely easy to figure out if you're a fan of Batman, especially if you've read Batman comics, if you've watched Batman animated shows. You know the major plot twist that's going to happen in this game. Early on, the first sentence that a certain character said in this game, I said, I already know the whole plot twist at the end of the game. So that's kind of disappointing. If you're not a huge fan of Batman, maybe this will be a huge plot twist for you, but that pissed me off, that here I am, a major fan of Batman, and I suspected this thing throughout the whole game. By the end of the game, it was correct. And I'm like, well, I would have liked a twist or, something. No, it's just, you guessed it right, because they went the really predictable route, and that's really annoying too. So ultimately, I'm kind of torn about this game. There's some really major positives. The amount of content, the times when the game hits it on all cylinders, the fact that there's a variety of content, the story itself is really great, the production values are great, but then you've got way too much Batmobile, still some flaws in the combat, way too predictable of a plot twist, and no boss fights, instead of just really cop-outs at the end of these side missions. And I'm torn about the game. I will, before I give you my number score, I'm going to give you a forewarning. At the end of Batman Arkham Knight, once you complete the final story-based mission, which is basically, completing the plot of the Scarecrow taking over Gotham City, once that's completed, a final mission is supposed to unlock, where basically it's the end of the plot line of the entire trilogy of Arkham games, okay? What's supposed to happen is the game says, okay, well, once you 100% the game, you can get these super secret endings. So if you do everything in the game, including getting all of the Riddler trophies, there's a super secret ending, okay? If you don't, if you did some of the side content, but not all of it, if you get a certain amount, if you did a certain amount, I'm Batman. Okay, sorry about that. My camera turned off again during recording, which is why I want a new camera, but I cannot afford one right now. But anyway, if you do almost no side content in the game, you get like a really weak ending, alright? But there is a glaring programming issue at this game that I need to alert everyone to, because it happened to me. Do not, by any means, complete all of the side content except for the Riddler trophies and then try to beat the game, because then what happens is the game ends, per se, but it goes to the final mission that's supposed to unlock your choice of ending, okay? What's supposed to happen in a normal game is the game assumes you did not do all of the side content, and you're supposed to complete one arc of side content in your radial dial of content in the game, and then the game will open up the final mission and you can go do it and get your appropriate ending. With me, I completed all of the side content except for the Riddler, so the game said, well, instead of opening up the final mission for Phil, we won't do it at all. We'll just say he has to complete all the Riddler content in order to get to the final mission of the game, which isn't the intentions of the game programmers. Hundreds, if not thousands of people have said we've got to the end of the game without beating all the Riddler content. It's obviously a misprogramming thing here. They didn't mean for that to happen. So I'm stuck now having to do hundreds of Riddler trophies before I can complete the game and see the true ending of the game for me because of that. So forewarning to everyone, if you're playing the game, leave, if you're not going to complete 100% side content before you do the final story mission of the game, leave another piece of side content open so once you do that mission, you can complete that and then get your ending. Because I think it's bullshit. It's obviously an oversight. They didn't think far enough into it. They were overthinking things probably, and it is a huge issue with the game for me. So overall, what do I think of Batman Arkham Knight? I very much enjoyed it. It was almost a 2-week-long thrill ride for me. I loved it. Again, treating the characters with respect, amazing production values, great graphics, great voice acting, a pretty solid plot, with maybe one or two really predictable twists here that were a little annoying. But for the most part, I very much enjoyed it. It's a cool way to end the trilogy, except for that Batmobile that's shoved down your fucking throat all the time. And I know there's numerous people out there who feel the same way as me. And why? Why, oh why is the Batmobile, this could be called Batmobile Arkham Knight. Why, right? So I understand that, and I think some people are disappointed because they were looking for some epic conclusion to this tried and true game series that they've been waiting for, and to get this is kind of like, it's good, but it wasn't quite as good as I was expecting. And being in line with that, that's exactly how I'm going to review the game. Batman Arkham Knight is a great game. It's a great bang for your buck. But if you hate driving, stay the fuck away from it, because you're just going to piss yourself off trying to play this game and put up with the Batmobile. If you're okay with driving and tank-style combat, play it, but understand it's such a huge portion of the game. It might still piss you off. It's great, but it's not like blow you away amazing. And I'll be honest, it's not the best game in the series. If you want me to really score the Batman Arkham series, I will. The worst game by far was Batman Arkham Origins. It was glitchy. It was not done by Rocksteady. That one was the lowest one. I'd probably say the one that was a step above that was the original Batman Arkham Asylum. It was a great game, great graphics, treated the characters seriously, had some really epic boss fights, but it had some issues with the combat. The game was early. It needed to be refined, right? And it was very, it was limited to what you could do. It wasn't free roam yet. So we kind of wanted that for the game series. So that's probably the next step up. Then you've probably got Batman Arkham Knight, where, okay, you've got Batmobile, you've got free roam through a city, the graphics are great, but the Batmobile is shoved down your throat too much, and the ultimate overall story is just a little bit weak when it comes to the plot twists, and you might be a little bit annoyed by some of the things in the game. I feel that of the entire series, it was Batman Arkham City that is the best one. I do. From now, I will say hands down, after playing all of them from start to finish, Batman Arkham City did it right. It hit it on all cylinders. It captured the Batman persona perfectly. It had a cool, definitive twist ending that no one was seeing coming. And it really was an awesome game. And I am a little disappointed with what they did with this game. The fact that it was a little bit limited, but there was so much Batmobile, and it should have been better. If you're going to end an epic trilogy in grand fashion, I'm looking for more, and this one left me wanting. Therefore, to give you the scoring scale, Batman Arkham Origins, I gave an 8 out of 10. Batman Arkham Asylum, I gave it 8.5 out of 10. Batman Arkham City, I gave a 9.5 out of 10. I'm giving Batman Arkham Knight an 8.75 out of 10. It's great, it's just not insano best game of all time, and it's not as good, in my opinion, as Arkham City was. I think that game was a little bit better, and this game falls a little bit far short in the series. Although it's a great effort, you can tell they put tons of time and work into it. I don't know. I think they went a little bit astray with the Batmobile stuff. I don't know what they were thinking. Still a good game. Check it out, especially if you're a fan of the series. If you could put up with the driving, check it out. You're going to like it. And it's certainly worth the money that it's cost right now because of the amount of content in the game. It is a great game, all right? So that is my honest, hateful truth review, cutting out all the bullshit of the overhype of the media. It's scaled in line with the other Batman games. Not that I pulled a number out of my ass. You could say, but I don't understand. You said that this game was worse, but you gave it a better score. No, this is in line with everything. 8.75 for Batman Arkham Knight. Check it out. It's a great game. Certainly going to be one of the most memorable games of 2015, and it's a cool way to end this series. And that is it for the Hateful Truth review. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Peace out, and I'll see you then. All right, here we go. How do we get in this thing? They destroyed the road to it, look. Yeah, they wrecked it. They blew the bridge up. So they probably gotta go up, I'm assuming. Aha. How many times have we been at Ace Chemicals? Seriously. It's such an infamous part of the Batman lore. Ace Chemicals.